Hi guys, my name is Rudy Patel. I'm the principal at ARCpoint Labs of Virginia Beach. It is part of a franchise system, and we purchase the territories for Hampton Roads from Williamsburg down to the ocean. And we opened up in February and kind of got stuck with COVID. And with my background in a little bit of academic immunology, it fell right into my lap, and I was able to help a lot of people. We were able to start the program very quickly, and without waiting on some tests that were not available to everybody, I was able to procure that. But apart from COVID, the main goal of our business and the main services that we offer is drug testing, DNA testing. Of course, all the clinical tests are available through us. And we partner with dozen national labs, including Quest, LabCorp, Centara too now, and we can provide those tests. The only downside is we do not accept insurance. It's a cash pay model, which is good right now, but some point in time we'll try to see how we can get into that fold. But there's a lot of compliance issues, and there's certain difficulties that the businesses go through when they have to deal with insurance and stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Today we will, what I will do is I'll just talk about how our company and our legal are, let's say, trying to build a policy kind of thing for how to go back to work, return to work, or whatever you call it now. But most businesses are allowed to open now, I believe. And so it's up to them when they want to open, how they want to open. There are certain guidelines that OSHA has in place, EEOE has in place, and CDC, of course. Most people lean on CDC to get more accurate information and the guidelines. So what we do is we compile all of them and help the business owners out, understanding that, implementing that with certain knowledge of what's going on in our particular area as far as the pandemic goes, so that the CDC won't have a specific idea or specific guidelines for. So that's where we are. And feel free to, I don't have the presentation slides or anything. It's very hard to prepare for this kind of things. This thing changes every day. CDC is not able to keep up with all the developments that change around. So I will just talk through, I'll throw in a couple of things that I might feel important that you can visualize, but just feel free to ask the questions and we'll go along that, and that will help us put out all the information that I have, because if I try to pick each and every information that I have, I'm definitely going to miss a whole lot. So questions are the best way to get those things out if I know the answers. So let's, COVID, everybody's been affected by that. Me personally, I got sick with COVID, lost the whole month of June mostly, me and my wife and my mom too. So it's very close to us, if I can say so. And I navigated through that. I was lucky to get back to my business, and were able to help a lot of people in that realm too, and a lot of companies too. So
Hey, Rudy.
we do.
Hey, mind if
Yeah.
I ask, just because you're the only person that I know that's actually had it, what was it like?
Horrible. Worst thing in my life. Worst thing in my life. So a little bit of background, how it started. One morning, my wife was running a fever. So we just went to our lab, tested, she was positive. So obviously I will test too myself. I turned out positive, but I had no symptoms whatsoever for next 5 days. My wife started getting better day by day, very low grade fever. But other than that, she did had some loss of taste and smell and little congestion in her chest, but nothing major for her. But on that 6th day, when I woke up, I was not able to go to the bathroom whatsoever. I couldn't muster any strength to get out of my bed. And again, I tried, I got up, my wife helped me out of the bed. We went to the bathroom. I felt so short in my breath I couldn't get up off the toilet, period. We called 911, of course, after I got dressed and stuff. But called 911, went there. And the first 3 days, I have no clue. Like, I couldn't lift my fingers. I couldn't breathe worth of a small straw that comes with, that high C pouch or capricin pouch. I couldn't breathe that much amount of air into my lungs at all. So 5 days in ICU, they did give me plasma. They did give me remdesivir, the antiviral medication that they had at that time, and started getting a little better, but breathing was still an issue. My lungs, right lobe of my right lung was little infected. It had some fibrosis, so that was one of the reasons for shortness of breath. And after they moved me to the regular room, I couldn't still muster the strength to go to the bathroom without help. I just cannot take one step. And the first day I went to the bathroom without help was before they discharged me after the 14th day, but barely I can go. But after that 14-day quarantine at home, and then I started walking slowly every day. I started adding almost 2,000 steps a day. And by the 14th day, I reached 12,000 steps. And I got back to work slowly. And funny, my first assignment was with Crowley Maritime Corporation, and they are the people who manages the cargo ships at Norfolk Terminal, one of the companies. And he told me that I have to go and test the mariners. I said, okay, it's a good thing. So instead of sending my staff, I went. I said, okay, let me get that experience. And that ship didn't have the elevator that was working. So I had to climb that one steep staircase. I think it was almost, I would say 70, 75 steps, one flight, 75 steps. I stopped 3 times. That guy was laughing at me. I told him, dude, this is what's going on. And it was horrible. But I ran my first mile last week without a problem. So glad
That's
to be back
amazing.
like that.
Sounds
But
terrible,
it
man.
was not a very good
Never.
feeling. Not a very good feeling. When you cannot go to bathroom, I think that's the worst feeling on your own. But yeah, but you, for anybody and everybody who has somebody who get into touch with anybody who got infected, it's not the end of the world. You can always fight it back. Just have some willpower. And not everybody gets sick like I did. So yeah. So rather than throwing them into a quarantine, into their room in isolation, let them move around in the house with all the social distancing and PPEs in place. That will make them not get sicker. Because fear of isolation is something that worries a lot of people. And we have seen that those are the people who resist the testing when needed. That if they find themselves positive, they will be quarantined or isolated. So that is something for everybody to take that. So some compassion to those guys. So yeah, so let's get back to reopening. And so, I mean, everybody has been reading and reopening and how to do this, what to keep in place. Everything's out there on internet. Everybody's talking, all the businessmen. So, but basically how we can start is like, there's 2 ways you can reopen: bring back your old employees back, or if you hired new person, you bring him to the workforce. So those are the 2 things that starts up your your reopening process. So what we suggest is creating a baseline. If you think that let's say if you have 100 people working with you and you think you're going to reopen, so first thing is you want to create a baseline. If somebody is sick, tell them you come in later. Okay, that baseline can be created by 2 types of tests. The PCR test, that is a gold standard, that detects the live virus. If somebody is sick right now, you need to get that PCR test. And then there is also a recommendation that you can create a baseline by conducting an antibody test, which tells you that if somebody was sick during when you guys were closed and they have the antibodies, so you can bring them back into the fold, and they will supposedly have the immunity and they can be on the front end of your workforce and they can save the other employees that still haven't got infected. But EEOE doesn't recommend that. They doesn't recommend that you ask anybody to do antibody test for that purpose, to put them in front, because the science is not strong yet. They don't have enough evidence how long that immunity lasts. 3 months, 6 months, 7 months, year, lifetime, we don't know yet. So that is one thing. So creating a baseline is very important. That's what we think. Then after creating the baseline, you are into your operations. Of course, when I say you start your operations is, I'm not going to repeat what you have guys have read and planned for. Keeping social distancing in place, cleaning supplies in place, that mask mandatory and stuff like that. So that everybody knows. I'm not going to repeat that. So once you create that baseline, once you come back to work, of course, the way you come back to work is, if you can work half the staff every alternate day, go for it. That will minimize the interaction. Or extend a shift, like add a half a shift or a full shift, so you can stagger all your employees rather than putting everybody in the building at the same time. So that will help social distancing. So those are the few companies are doing that way, if it is feasible for your business. Every business is different, so it's very hard. So that is something. So after creating a baseline, then you should have the protocol for retesting if you want to, periodically, every 2 weeks. It is expensive right now, but now there is an antigen test. I'll go over that in a little bit, which is a little cheaper, that everybody should be able to afford, hopefully. So you should have something in place where you periodically test all your staff. Then you should have something in place where what to do when somebody is positive, how you isolate them, make them work from home, bring them back after certain days per CDC guidelines. There is certain guidelines available. I'll go over that too. And those are the two most important things that you want, like periodic testing and how to bring people back, or what to do when you find a positive, what to do when somebody says that they were potentially exposed when they went out to a dinner or party or whatever, So let's start with periodic testing. As I said, depending on the size of your company, you can test them bi-weekly or monthly. Again, all the CDC guidelines in place. So there are two tests you can do. The antigen tests are now available, and hopefully they will stay like that. They stay available before the government intervenes and try to get the stash again. So PCR test and antigen test. So the difference between two tests is, first thing is price, less than half the price, antigen testing. So what it does is, both the tests detects for a live virus. The way PCR works is, it detects the RNA of the virus. What antigen test does is, it detects a specific protein that is on the surface of the virus that helps that virus binds to the human cell. Nucleoplasid protein, it's called. And so that's how it detects. Both the tests are highly specific, so there are very less chances of getting a false positive for that. If it is positive, you can bet that it is positive, unless until a person who is running the test coughed in and he was positive or something, but it doesn't happen like that. So very high rate of positives are positives for both those tests. Now the sensitivity part now of that test is, PCR is more sensitive than antigen test. It is inherent in what it detects and the methodology of the test. What PCR does is, it picks up the RNA of the virus and it starts replicating them till it reaches certain amount of RNA, number of RNA, and then detects it. Antigen is, it specifically binds to the antibody that is in the test kit, and it gives out a signal, whether fluorescent or a line, like we have it for our regular flu antibodies. There are very less amount of antigen protein on the surface of the virus. So there is a chance that you might miss a positive on antigen test. The antigen test sensitivity runs about 87%, 87 to 89%, and which is considered very good. In case of PCR, the sensitivity runs in higher 90s, 97%, 98%, like that. Most tests. We have seen certain tests that is 93% too, but that can be always changed. If the person performing or the clinic performing that test knows what the sensitivity is, they can improve the sensitivity all the time by tweaking the procedures they do. So what is sensitivity? Sensitivity is the capacity of the test to detect the minimum number of virus or minimum amount of virus. So let's say I'll throw out a number, 10. If the nasal swab picked up 10 viruses, 10 molecules of virus, I run a PCR test. So what the PCR test will do is it will multiply from 10 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 80, till it reaches, let's say, 200 copies of that viral RNA, and it is able to detect that test. In antigen, 10 is 10. It doesn't replicate. So if your test is not able to detect that at that threshold of 10, then you will get a false negative, that even if you have the virus, you will not be able to detect. So there is a threshold. So that's what sensitivity is. And when people talk about accuracy, that accuracy is the combination of sensitivity and specificity that I just told you guys. So antigen test is available, which will be cheaper and widely available. So that can be used to find out if somebody is positive in your work at your workplace, and that can be definitely employed when you are periodically doing it every 2 weeks or every month. Okay, then where were we? Okay, so now comes the if somebody comes up at your workplace, says, okay, I went to a party and I just found out that that guy tested positive. What do you do? So what you do is right away PCR. There is no ifs and buts about that. Right away, and isolate him for till the results come back. And I can share this. Let me see. That will. I can share my screen, right, Christina? Am I allowed?
Yes, I made you the co-host. There should be a green arrow at the bottom that says share screen.
Okay. So this is the exposure and testing timeline. So as you guys can see that, let's say exposure on your left-hand side. So within 48 hours, do a PCR test. They say antigen, but if you are conducting on one employee or couple of employees, I highly recommend do a PCR test, which is more accurate. Of course, self-quarantine or isolate that person till the results come back. If it comes back positive, 10 days of isolation. If it comes back negative, you can bring them back to work, right? So it is as simple as that. Now that 10-day rule has been changing every month. That is the CDC guideline. And it is different for healthcare providers and normal employees. So what they do is, let's say if you are positive, and before it was mandatory that you will have to get 2 negative PCR tests at least 24 hours apart to get back to work. But what's happening is people test positive for 3 months. What's going on there is it's called the shed. It's called the viral shed. So as I said, that PCR detects the RNA of the virus. So what happens in your upper respiratory system when you were infected by that virus, even if the virus is dead, it carcasses, lingers around in your respiratory system. And viral carcasses is nothing but the pieces of RNA, because that's what the virus is, right? So, so a PCR test will still pick up that RNA and it will show that you are a positive. So technically you can call them a false positive, but it is not a false positive. You are positive for that particular piece of RNA. It is there, that's why it detected. It's not that it's not there and it is still detecting. That's called a false positive. So in technicality, it's two different things. So that's why CDC came up with that if you are symptoms free for 10 days and you were not having any fever or headache or anything, without taking any medical intervention, you can come back to work in 10 days. Yes, you might still bad, you might still have shortness of breath, this and that, that's fine. As far as that symptom is less than the symptoms that you had 10 days before, you can come back to work. So that is the new CDC guideline. And this keeps changing, mind you. For people who don't have any symptoms and they still tested positive, absolutely fine to bring them back to work after 10 days. The PCR test, they say it is not recommended, but if you want to do it for peace of mind, that's fine. But as I said, you will still keep getting positive for that. And on the side note, not the CDC guideline, a personal note to you guys, if something like this happened to you, that you tested positive, no symptoms whatsoever, do take a lot of steam, breathe a lot of steam at home, do saline irrigation that we do to clear out our nose. So that will help get rid of a lot of that dead RNA. But that is my personal my personal guideline. That's a commonsensical thing, you know, when you are trying to clear out something of your nose. And I can tell you that because I know a little bit about immunology, and I have talked about this to my doctors, and they said that don't advise it. It is because I'm not a medical doctor, but I can tell it to my friends and family to do, and they will get them a negative report. If it is required for you guys to go back to work and your employer needs that negative report, this is the way you can do it, because basically you are getting rid of the dead carcasses of the virus, right? So that's, yeah.
Can I ask a question? So
Yeah.
you're recommending, you're basically saying that the PCR test can come back positive for up to 90 days
Yes.
after you've been infected. How about the antigen test? Is it more accurate?
You cannot say accurate, but it is not picking up the RNA. So it will come back negative sooner than what we think. And what happens is once your body starts fighting for your body, that virus becomes non-replicable. So replication incompetent, that's what the word they use. So even if you have virus in your respiratory system, your body is not letting it to replicate, which makes you sick, right? So that's the phase it is in. So probably you might get a positive antigen test for 10-15 days because you might have some live virus, not a whole lot, but not for 3 months, definitely, like PCR. So you cannot say it's accurate or not, because PCR is doing its own job, picking up the RNA. It is up to the medical director to interpret what it is, talking to their patient and when was the first positive was. Like if it was 3 months back, and if you don't have symptoms for 3 months, still testing positive, there is no reason to believe that you are still sick or you are spreading that virus. So that is a call that a medical director or a medical doctor can make. It's out of my realm. I didn't study that much. So that's, and I'll email you guys this thing, so you have it for references. Okay, stop share. Okay, so that's where we are for. Okay, and now again, bringing back to work, you already know 10 days. CDC guideline says the same thing, PCR. Before, when you asked me this question in June, I would say that you need 2 PCR, back-to-back PCRs, 24 hours apart to bring somebody back to work. But now CDC has relaxed that guidelines, and makes sense. And this comes after a lot of research and lots of data they collect. So that's where it comes from. Any questions, guys?
Are the tests blood or nasal swab tests?
This is, yes. So the live virus test is always a nasal swab. The blood test is antibody. So what antibody test does is it tells you that if you were sick, at least before 14 days. your body doesn't create, most bodies doesn't create any antibodies for 14 days, or they are at a very low level to detect. The limit of detections of those tests are very, very high. So the blood tests are antibody tests. That will tell you that if you were sick, like you had cold or runny nose in July, you bet that, oh no, this was COVID. I know that I went to this party, there were a bunch of, you might want to go out and get an antibody test done. If you have antibodies that you know that you were infected, and directionally, according to science, if you have antibodies, you are not supposed to get sick again for certain time till your body builds infinite immunity or lifetime immunity. But yeah, blood test is antibodies, but live viral test is always a nasal swab. Now they have a saliva and oral swab, but it is not available widely. Still, the nasal swab is the best test. If you can, I'll track back from this. If you can get sputum to test, then it is as accurate as nasal swab, but not oral fluid. I don't think so. Yeah, but yeah, nasal swab is viral, live virus. You are sick right now. Antibody blood test is you were sick in the past.
Okay.
Okay. Any more questions, guys?
Yeah, Rudy, what's the projected range? And I know it can vary, but for antibodies, is it like, I've heard 4 months, 6 months? Don't know. Do you have any data?
We don't, because right now all the antibody tests that are available are all qualitative. It only tells you that you have it or not. The laboratories are creating a range where they are trying to find out that we have this much antibodies or a number, a random number, but they haven't correlated that to how long that lasts. Let's say, like what I'm doing is, because I have access to those tests, me and my wife, we know that we have antibodies, we had antibodies. So we are literally testing our antibodies every month, just for the knowledge purpose. And what we have seen is every time we test, the number reduces. What that means, neither I know, nobody else knows yet. Probably in 6 months' time, we will have enough data. Somebody will be able to crack that data and give us some kind of guidelines. But no, there is one test that's called True Immune. And what it does is, instead of detecting for the binding antibodies, it is detecting the fighting antibodies, out in a layman term. So that has some kind of a range that they have created, like from 20 to 80 range. So if you are in 80s, then your body is capable of fighting the virus strongly, rather than somebody with 20. So when I got out of the hospital, I tested myself. I was in above 80 range. My wife was in above 60 range. And when I tested last month, my range came down to 60. My wife was around 20. So, but again, we don't know how long this will, and this is the reason I do test on myself, that I will at least know when I will go to 0. But again, that doesn't mean that your body will not remember when the same virus will try to attack you, because the M cells and the B cells of your body, that's their job, to recall and replicate when a known invader comes to your body. But again, science, we just cannot base anything on the judgment. We need the proof in the laboratory or in the data. So nobody will tell you that it lasts for 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months. So basically keep social distancing and keep wearing mask. And again, even if you have antibodies, you can be a carrier, you know. You will pick up virus from somebody that was positive. You'll carry it in your respiratory system when you go home, and you will give it to somebody who didn't have immunity. So you are still a carrier. So that's why you still want to be careful for other people, friends and family, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Rudy, I had 2 questions. The first is for people who are immunocompromised, or have any type of, illnesses where, it affects their immune system. what can you, other than of course the social distancing and the mask, wearing the mask, what can you recommend for them? Any extra precautions that they can take?
Extra precautions are clean, 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 mask, 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 and don't meet anybody, don't go out to groceries, nothing. Especially people with immunocompromised system. Because what happens is, like, we already know that they are immunocompromised. So what that technically means that your body has, like we were discussing before our call, our body finds a balance to live with the antigen, meaning the virus or bacteria or whatever, So our body finds a balance to stay with that in our system. So when you get attacked by COVID-19 or any other kind of virus, when you get sick, what happens is, now that your body, which is in balance, but it is still fighting with that old virus in you, has to use some of the resources to fight the new virus or the new attacker. So that scale tips into the old virus side, and that gets more and more, what can we say? I lost the word. So that basically overpowers your immune system. And the thing that you think that my body was living with, let's say I was a diabetic. Let's assume that I'm a diabetic. My body I'm on the cusp of diabetes, not a diabetic. So my body has found a way to live with my insulin dependency, and it's okay. Now this virus comes in, and now my body has to not only worry about this diabetic condition, pre-diabetic condition I'm in, but it has to use its resources to fight this COVID virus. So now that pre-diabetic condition has the advantage over my body. So it will start flaring up. That was the word I was looking for. So those things tends to flare up, your old things that you are living with. I'll mention my mom's case in this scenario. She has liver cirrhosis. She was hepatitis B for ages, but no problems whatsoever. She'll be 70 next year, this December actually. No problems. She got COVID. Now that liver cirrhosis flared up, and her liver just started degrading like very, very, very fast. So now, I mean, we'll have medical intervention, and hopefully she will be fine. But that is the perfect example of it, that it's a seesaw in our body when we are living with certain condition, and when COVID happens, that seesaw tips on the condition side, not our side. So we go way up. And that's where the immunocompromised people and older people who will have some kind of malignancy that came with the age. And that's where it is very dangerous for them. And that's why when being young, we think that we get the virus, we don't get symptoms, we get better without hospitalization. But if we bring that to them, they might not be able to cope with that without hospitalization or heavy medical intervention. So yeah.
Thank you. And I have my second question very quickly. We've heard so many different things over the last several months since it hit. At first they were saying that it wasn't airborne, and now they're saying it is. And when you look at people contracting it through the air, there's someone who sneezed or coughed versus someone who's, let's just say, at a restaurant and you're touching surfaces that have been contaminated. Are you more likely to catch it one way or the other?
Yes and no. Yes, meaning that, of course, when you say restaurants, one of the data, I apologize for whoever owns the restaurant in this group, but one of the data that when we talk to these contact tracers every day on daily basis, when we report them the positives, one of the statistic they gave us was everybody who was positive went to a restaurant. That doesn't mean that they got contracted from a restaurant, but that person was in a restaurant. So he might have given it to somebody. There is a chance that that person might have given it to somebody. I'm not saying that that person got it from there. So because restaurant is a very important part of our lifestyle, I guess. Everybody goes, and I mean, small, big, any kind of restaurant, everybody visits them. So that is one place you can, I'm sorry, restaurant owners, but try to bring the food home. But yes, I think, and a lot of people agree with that. Eventually, everybody will get more or less of that. Hopefully, not a whole lot, and hopefully, we have medications and vaccines in place in time. But airborne, there has been a research out there, but when they say airborne, what they are saying is without a human media, meaning your cough or your sweat, not sweat, cough or saliva. No, not like that. If your virus is, let's say you painted virus on the wall, it's not going to fly through your HVAC system or across the room from that wall and hit you. No, we don't know that yet. And it is highly unlikely. It is highly unlikely. But yes, if your saliva or your sputum finds a way to travel as a micro droplet across the room, then yes. But CDC has told, and most medical professionals agree that if you are not in contact with somebody for more than 5 minutes or 6 minutes, you are unlikely to get that virus in them, unless until somebody really coughs hard. But no, your body is pretty strong. It doesn't go down like that. No.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any
May I
more
ask
questions?
another question?
Yeah.
In the office, how often do you guys recommend, or the CDC, I'm not sure, like that we clean? Because I'm looking to start bringing everybody in phases. Yeah, how often should I be cleaning?
The common surfaces, the highly touched surface, every few hours. I mean, that's what we do in our lab. But we get a whole lot of people. Probably you will not get that kind of people. But let's say you are a tech company. Everybody is confined to their desk at least twice a day, or at least before they come and before they go home, and after they come back in the morning, I think wipe down. But other than that, I mean, there are the sprays available if you can get your hands on. Every couple of days spray it. But other than, we are doing an experiment for a local company. They have acquired a cleaning material. It's a spray, it's a liquid, and the manufacturer claims that if you use that either air dry or wiped, it protects against the virus for 30 days. And the guy who is going to market in our area, he said it is a little too much. So he hired us to run the efficacy test for his product. So we are trying that. We are running that. Right now we have found that apart from carpet, all the other surfaces, it's testing negative for the viruses.
And how long have you done it for?
No, it's just the 4th day. I'm just leaking out the results before. He don't even know what we have in the books. But carpet, next day, it turned out positive. So as frequently as you can, and your business allows you to do it without interruption, of course. But that's why a lot of people what they have done is they have curtailed the number of hours their business is open, so they can use that extra hour to clean. But as I said, human specimen, meaning either from saliva or sputum, that are the only ways. Basically, the respiratory specimens, that's the only way it will spread. It will not spread any other way right now.
You said saliva, and what else?
Your sputum, like when you cough, something that comes out of your throat or from your nose. Yeah. So that's the way it will spread. Yeah.
Is it advisable for to have employees take turns cleaning, like maybe putting gloves on and cleaning the surfaces?
Yeah.
It's okay?
Yeah. I mean, somebody has to do it.
Right. Okay.
Wear the mask and do it, Yeah. Somebody has to definitely do it. Yeah. No, but yeah, that's a good. Any more questions on this?
And just an experience share on that cleaning. We have two shifts we operate here, and we have people that do it in the afternoon that are set. They have a whole cleaning regiment, and then we actually fog the entire building at night before the
Right.
So it's the fogger is not super expensive. It was like less than 500, just under $500, but
Right.
it covers a lot. And we have 40,000
Lot.
square feet, and we fog it every single night from 10:30 to 11:30.
Mhm.
So it's something to consider. If you have a big work area, we have one person stay, or two people stay. One person operates and one person just monitors.
Mhm.
One else has the building, and then once it contacts the surface, and we damn near fog everything. So.
Right. It will, yeah. And I think there are foggers that are negatively charged, so it easily sticks to the surface of it will mostly metal surfaces and wood surfaces, I believe. So that will give you a proper coverage on all the surfaces. Yes, Jay is absolutely right. Yeah, and I know they are doing a great job.
Yeah, most of the schools are using different types of foggers, and I've been over to see them and help them. I mean, when you need to cover a lot of area, I'll be honest, that's probably the best way to do it, and it's pretty effective as long as your chemicals mixed right. And the chemicals are like FDA certified, so they're food safe, and they're available. We get ours from like Beach Chemical. We buy the straight and mix it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, airlines use the same thing. I flew to Fort Lauderdale last week, and American Airlines was using that. Yeah. It's better. It's easier than to wipe down if you have a huge facilities or a lot of furniture. Basically, fogging is better. And plus, again, the efficacy of the virus on different surfaces. That is some study that's going on right now, but we don't have the specific answer, what condition, what temperature they survive on certain surfaces for how long. So let's say if you close it at night, when you come back in the morning, I mean, the virus is not alive or not competent to infect you or replicate, So, but those studies are still pending. When we have that, we will know. So, yeah. So any more questions on this?
Hey there, this is Chip. I'll jump in on something.
Hey, Chip.
One other thing we did, we put in those UV lights into our HVAC system. Not sure how effective that is, but it's like $100 to $150 on Amazon. It's pretty easy for somebody to do, but that way, at least every time the AC or heat cuts on, it's doing some cleansing of the air. So one question for you, I just drove all the way to Colorado and back a couple weeks ago, and I saw lots of different of these clear face shields that are not really a mask. Some were worn on the chin, and some were worn like sunglasses. So I guess, have you looked at any studies to see, are those effective, or are they just like an easy way to,
Okay,
get
so
around the radiation?
So as I said, that the virus will travel with the droplets or micro droplets of your body fluids, basically saliva or sputum, right? So when you have a shield, it is very hard for go like this and to your nose. But if you are close to somebody for a long period of time, it can get swept under your shield because it's not like sticking to your body or like your mask, So it is okay, but if you are going to be in contact with somebody for a little bit of a short period of a time, but prolonged contact, you still need mask underneath that shield if you may. So it's a double protection. There is no easy way out of this, Chip.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, I saw a lot of restaurants using it. And since I work with people with disabilities, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but it's really hard to hear when you can't see somebody's lips.
Yeah.
Move. It's amazing how much, even if you have good hearing.
No, of course.
You understand. So, so it's just a consideration for my staff to work with people that have limited communication.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do it if it was unsafe.
It's not unsafe, but again, every PPE comes with advantage and not a disadvantage, but a limitation. Let's put it that way. Not a disadvantage, but a limitation. Like every mask that we have, there is nothing 100% about that mask either, Like person wearing it doesn't mean that he will not be able to spit out any virus out of his system. And as a spreader, let's put it that way. And as for us who don't want to get infected, there is a better chance that you won't get infected. But if you are wearing your mask, we cannot see it, but the micro droplets are still passing through that mask. That was a study done, I think, at Yale. I might have a video of that. They use the UV light to detect those micro droplets, and you'll be surprised that certain masks that we see people wearing, they were considered one of the worst, because what it does is it breaks down the droplets in a very, very tiny droplets, which tend to travel more with air and at a further distance. Make sense?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the regular buffs that people wear.
So they studied like different masks. It was out a couple of months back, and yeah, you'll be surprised that how it travels and how you can still get it. But yeah.
So one more quick question. I guess more of a personal question. There's been a lot of studies showing people who have a tough outcome with this thing have low vitamin D, and the vice versa is also true. So since you had a pretty tough time with this, how were your vitamin D levels, if you don't mind sharing? I just wondered.
My vitamin D levels were very low from get-go, because I have been in vitamin D supplement for a long period of time, like few months every year. So mine were already low, but yes, it is highly recommended that you keep up with vitamin D, vitamin C. That just simply boosts up your immune system, and it's generally healthy. Probably I was not healthy enough to get sicker and sicker. But yeah, again, the mechanism, the way this virus works for a general person or a general immune system is the same as a flu virus, but we don't have the treatment, but it affects the same way to your body. The reason we don't get affected by flu this severely is because our body has become more and more immune to that flu, even though the vaccine is very different every year. But let's say out of 100, only difference is like 1%. The 99% of that vaccine is still the same for that what we have been administered for years. So our body definitely has some kind of innate immune response ready for the flu, the annual flu season that we get. But when a new virus comes along, it takes time for our body to get that immunity.
So is it safe to assume if somebody got it again after some period of time, since it's no longer novel, their outcome would be a lot more mild than
very mild? Yes, that is a directional science. Any scientist you talk to, they will say that, but CDC won't allow us to say that because there is no proof yet.
Right. And then I guess you said your wife also had it, but it didn't sound like she had a very bad outcome. Were her vitamin D levels within range, or was she also low?
She's also low.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But that's just one cog in the wheel, in your immune system, vitamin D. There is a lot of other things that plays role in your immune system and your immune response. So
I was just curious because a lot of the studies show, and you can get vitamin D gummy bears that are actually they're actually pretty good.
But vitamin D, just see, your body has a capacity to absorb certain amount of nutrients. Let's put it that way. So eating more vitamin D doesn't mean that your body will store more vitamin D. It will only take as much as it is needed. It can be low, but it cannot be high. So you cannot have a handful and chuck it every day. No, it's just one tablet is one tablet. Your body, and it is absorbed in certain ways. So when somebody tries to sell us a gummy, doesn't mean that, let's say, direct sunlight helps us absorb vitamin D, right? Better. You get vitamin D from milk. So the form of vitamin D that you get from your milk is easily absorbed by our body. The one that you take as a supplement, even Centrum, not all is absorbed. Let's say just I'm throwing out a number, 100. So there are 100 molecules of vitamin D in your cup of milk. Your body will absorb 90 of them because it is the form that is easily absorbed, and that's why we drink probably. If let's say you take Centrum or any vitamin D gummy bear, you say, again, it has 100 molecules of vitamin D, but your body will only take 10 or 20 out of that 100. So it depends on what form it is, or because a lot of other things do matter. Make sense?
Yeah, that's very helpful. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it is a compound. It's not just one thing. It is bind with a lot of other things that helps our body to absorb that or hook up into that. Anything else, guys?
I have one more question.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot of people are adverse to wearing masks outside. You'll see them inside wearing it.
Mhm.
Can't you catch it if you're in close proximity to a group of people and you're outside, even though there's the air, there's a breeze? Can't you still get it just the same? If the person doesn't have a mask and you're outside.
Okay, so answer to that, Christina, is when you are out and about, as I said, that CDC and a lot of medical professional will say, if you are not in close contact with somebody less than 6 feet for, let's say, 5 or 15 minutes, you are less likely to catch. There is no absolute answer to that. So if you are out and about, you are not spending a lot of time with somebody, and you said like with the wind gust or something, this it doesn't stay for a this droplets doesn't stay in the air very long time. Not at all. Not for very long time, no. So it is okay if you don't have mask outside, but if you are going to stay close to somebody for a long time, yes, but no, it is okay. But again, as I said, there is no absolutes to these things.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll share one more thing. Let me see if I put it up. It is here, there was a statistics done. Can you guys see this? No, I need to share this screen. It has some good information. This was the return to work, back to business study. About 2,000 people participated in this study, and some questions in late April, and some questions were asked to them, like how would they go back to work, what needs to be done for them to go back to work, right? So a lot of people said right here that assurance from authorities, like 63% of people wanted that CDC to say that it is safe, plus some kind of medical interventions, that whether a treatment is available or vaccine is available, then they felt more comfortable to return back to work. Plus again, safety policies in place, that is must. Otherwise, I don't think anybody will want to come to work. So I'll share this too. What else? Let's see if I have. Okay, see, before returning to work, I want the option to wear a mask. 64% said yes. Maintain social distancing, 61%. Flexible sick leaves, that is one important part for employers. I didn't touch on that. So encourage people who think that they were exposed to stay home. Encourage them. Again, how can you encourage them? Because it reduces your productivity, plus you're paying for their sick time. So have flexible sick leave policies and stuff like that. So that is one thing that everybody talks about. You can limit the number of meetings people work, and have temperature checks as the part of your social, what is it called, safety policies. Then, okay, some good nuggets in here. Return to work. Let's see what it says here. This is the demographics of where they think that they will ready to come back to work sooner or later. Some political output. Republicans were 2 times as likely as Democrats to say they were comfortable returning to their workplace. I'll share this too with you guys.
But this was done in April, you said?
End of April, so it's pretty old data.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something like this, simple. I trust company leadership to make the best decisions. So definitely your employers trust you guys. Employees trust you guys to provide them with a better workplace or safer workplace. This is, I'll share this with you guys just in case if you need it. But something that I found and I shared it on my desktop. So little bit of an update of what we are observing here. Definitely the number of positives has reduced, so as number of tests, though now the tests are easily available, not a lot of people are testing. We are still seeing 7%, around about 7% positive rate at our lab, and we try to test mostly asymptomatic people. If somebody is feeling sick or somebody calls us that he's feeling this and that, so we tell them to go see their doctor first, because now the flu season around the corner, it can be anything, and we want their medical advisors to guide them what to do. And because people can misinterpret their own results, like definitely when we give out the reports, we do tell them to take the report to their healthcare provider, so they can guide them and treat them if needed. Sometimes what happens is a lot of people will have symptoms and they will not test positive, they will be still negative, like especially when they do antigen test. There is a chance that when they do antigen test, you will get a negative even if you have symptoms. So then it becomes very important to speak to your healthcare provider when you take the antigen test. PCR is something, it's a better test, so it won't give you a false negative like that, but antigen test will. Antigen test is for mass testing, let's put it that way. But if you want to have a short answer, you want to do the PCR test. So that is something that we are seeing. We do a lot of maritime industry. Yesterday we did Northrop Grumman for their Entrance project for NASA at Wallops Island, and I don't know if I can share, but I will still share 10% positive rate there. They were supposed to have a launch today. I don't think everybody made it at the launch. So, but yeah, a lot of industry is still struggling with it, and something to be careful about. But I think with safety policies in place, I don't think there is any reason why not to go. I don't see it.
How about school-age children? Are you seeing many of them come through, and what's their rate of infection?
School children's, we do see a lot of them, but no, not very high rate of infection. And we did have some positive kids that tested positive, high schoolers back in, I would say, end of July, August. And the younger ones tested positive, but every time a younger one was positive, their household was positive too. So there is a chance that their parent probably gave it to them. But we haven't seen any children who got sick or had any kind of symptoms when they tested positive now. And I hope that is true for all the testing facilities. We haven't talked much about it. I think that's a good statistic. I'll try to gather. Anything else?
Rudy, I put your information in the chat. So if any of you would like to reach out to Rudy, his telephone number is there along with his website address and the name of his business, ARCpoint Labs, Virginia Beach.
And I think our corporate is, sorry, Christina, I had to interrupt, otherwise I would have forgot. I think our corporate is hosting a webinar tomorrow with our legal partner and our medical director. They will have some updated informations and guidelines from CDC and more data than I have. So Christina, can I share that link with you? And certainly, you can just share it openly, and they can, I think it's at 12 noon tomorrow, same time. Certainly. And I think you will have more updated. And what I will do is, if I can get hold of that recording, I'll send that to you guys too. And for that, you can share that and listen to that later on too. So it's not a marketing call, but something if it's not a marketing call from them either. So something, it's just to spread the knowledge and stuff like that. Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. And there are a few people on this webinar who are not part of the Southeast Virginia chapter. Mm-hmm. So I don't have your email address, but if you'd like to receive the link from Rudy and also a recording of this webinar, if you wouldn't mind just going in the chat, and you can send me a message personally with your name and your email address, and I'll make sure that you.
Let me see if I pull up the link. I can probably put it in here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it will have a lot more updated information than I gave you guys today, from legal point of view, that what we can do, what we cannot. And what I will do is I'll also share a return to work guide that these people created in July, early August, with the CDC guidelines in place at that time. And I did read some of the guidelines this morning just to compare that guide and today's environment. and it's not much has changed, so you guys can still use it. I'll share that link too. I'll share that. Anything else, guys?
Thank you.
Reach out to us whenever you need any testing need. Again, not trying to market anything, but I think I promised Christine I'll have a specific link for EO members. I still haven't done it. Christine, I'll send that to you too.
Thank you very much.
For emergencies, you guys can use that. And
Actually,
my staff,
I do have a question. I'm all the way in Miami. Do you service this area as well?
Miami ARCpoint franchise is about to open a location there. And I have a contractor in Fort Lauderdale who can come to you and test you. Because I had to set him up for a big multinational company, because Fort Lauderdale location, they are not participating in COVID testing, but Miami will soon have it. And yeah, look for it. The corporate is opening a location in Miami, but Fort Lauderdale, I can ask that guy to come help you out if there is an emergency. He has the kits and the analyzers. I gave it to him. Yeah. So we can take care of it. Anything else, guys? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.